Hello everybody and welcome to the Royal Blue podcast. I'm Ian Croll and it is the Friday Royal Blue show and we are live. And I am joined by Gav Buckland. Gav, how are things? How's the cup of tea that I've just made you?
I need one after I had a few beers last night, as I was saying.
Okay.
So it's only a 10-year link to reality at the moment.
A little bit rough then, are we? Yeah.
I was this morning. I'm growing into the day.
Okay,
You know?
I like to do that.
Saying
that's absolutely wrong. I usually, after a hangover, I start the day well and then fade as the day goes. So that's where I'm up to.
I start to say badly and stay badly.
I think
I'm all right. I'm hopefully coaching for the pod.
That's probably most people, isn't it? And you're rocking the shorts today, you can see on screen.
Sorry if anybody can see my knees, but I've had a bit of sunshine.
It is actually, I think we're going to be having good weather for a good couple of days, aren't we?
Well, I hope so. Yeah, it's been terrible, hasn't it?
It has. Okay. Well, enough about the weather. Enough about your
knees.
Shorts
and knees.
Yeah. Just say hello to everyone who's watching on the live stream, and hello to anyone who's listening on Spotify as well as Apple Pods. Please remember to give us a like. Please give us a subscribe if you haven't already. As always, the support is greatly appreciated, and as always, like we say, get involved in the stream with a comment, with a question. Interaction is greatly appreciated. So today's agenda, to be honest, Gav, my head's burnt out. My head is burnt out with the takeover talk. We obviously kind of reacted to the news, me and you, last week, with regards to when that news broke. We did an hour. We are obviously going to talk about it a little bit, but today's agenda is something a little bit different. We're going to kind of go through Everton's priority list, and we've broken that down we've condensed it down into 8 points. I'm sure there is a lot more.
Possibly another couple.
Let us know what you think. Is there more than 8? As we go through the list today, we are going to address it. But if you think there's more, then let us know. This list is not really in order of priority, but obviously there is more issues that is more more important than others. So me and Gav are going to go through it. A few that Everton could make happen within the next couple of weeks, in the next couple of months, and there's a few that probably not going to be able to happen till next season. So if we missed any off, let us know in the comments, and I'll read them out basically. So as mentioned, takeover talk is burning me head in, but I am obviously a bit of a sadist, Gav, so we are going to speak about it. Glutton for punishment.
I'm fed up with takeover talk, so I'm going to talk about takeover talk.
Well, it probably is priority number one.
It is, but there's some stuff that's within the club's gift, isn't it? Awarding players contracts, buying and selling players. I'm talking about the footballing side of the club there, isn't it? There's other bits that are outside the control, isn't it, of the footballing side of the operation, and even the commercial side. This is a corporate level, isn't it? And this is still, and even at that level, it's a bit beyond the control, as we've seen with the Leadenhall case impacting on the Friedkin group. But yeah, everything points to we would be in a far better place, as we all know, with a new owner who understands the club, and like the Friedkin group have got like a background in football, respected, have high values, and that can't come quick enough. And really, if that's not there, there's lots of other stuff on the list that are affected, aren't they then?
Yeah.
And we can talk about that, but that's a priority, but that's a little bit outside of everybody's control, isn't it, really? And we just have to wait and see, but the sooner that is resolved, the better. I know Dave Powell was saying yesterday that the court case to Leadenhall could take a while on the podcast, and that's obviously impacting on things. So we just have to wait and see. We've now got an interim board that's been in place, I think, is it 14 months? It's a long time to be an interim board. So we don't want to go over all the techie stuff, but that in terms of the smooth running of the club going into Bramley Moor, that's sort of, as you say, that's the priority. Everything is affected within the club is affected by that, isn't it?
So we got number one is find a new owner and appoint a new board. I mean, are you still reeling a little bit, still a little bit disappointed?
Very disappointed.
Friedkin seemed like the most viable option out of everyone.
Well, yeah, there was 3 or 4 reputable bids, wasn't there, or potential bidders. They seemed ideal, and I'm still very disappointed. Well, for 2 reasons. It didn't happen, and the reason why it's happened as well, because there's a little bit there of Mashiri slitting his own throat, isn't it, by getting into bed with 777 stroke A cap. and that's obviously impacted the freaking decision, which we don't need to go into. That there's lots of content on the pod this week about that.
But it's also frustrating because we know that this specific loan, is going to affect any other future.
Yeah, we said that last week, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, if you read the, I've not read in full, but if you read the legal papers, Leadenhall, the people who were in disputes with ACAP, Everton are mentioned 83 times in the legal papers. So that says
83 times too many.
83 times too many. And not that we've done anything wrong, but it's all
no,
about
of course,
it's all absolutely. It's like it's about like it all goes into talking about the ACAP business and the people that they've got loans with and dealing with them. I mentioned 83 times in court papers, and that was one reason why the freaking group have effectively walked away. Interesting, Dave said yesterday that they don't think they're going to come back.
I mean, I don't think he could say for certain, could he?
Yeah.
If you haven't watched that pod yesterday, I sat down with Dave Parr, our business of football writer, and he had some really good insight. And, there was a lot of speculation in there of what could happen in the future for any potential new Everton owner. I mean, he's a partner now because he's lent us money. People think this might be a negotiation tactic. There's a lot of things going on, isn't there? We talked about that last week. Dave said he doesn't think that he'll come back, but who knows? I mean, we will have to see. But number one on the list, find a new owner.
Well, yeah, you could argue the one that comes before then is the Leadenhall case with ACAP needs to be resolved.
Yeah, we tried to condense it down to 8.
But you know what I mean? That within that, that's the key thing, isn't it, for the first priority?
Yeah, true.
Say about things that are inside your control and not in your control. In some respect, as I say, that's another thing why that's outside our control to a degree.
Okay, well, we're getting quite a few comments in now, and a lot of the priorities are down to kind of like stuff on the pitch, which is kind of what I want to speak about, really. Obviously, there is stuff off the pitch that we do need to address, but transfers, incomings, outgoings is on the list a little bit further down, which we will come on to. So once we get to that, I will read some of the comments out. Number 2, then, again, as mentioned, this list is not like in order of priority, although I think we have suggested that finding a new owner is probably priority number 1, but we've just come up with this list and it's not in ascending order of priority. But number 2, secure funding for the completion of Bramley Moor Stadium.
Yeah, so there's conflicting stories on this.
Yes,
week, isn't it?
Conflicting stories, which we'll go into now. But I think there's been communication to suggest that the club have got the funding in place.
I think
our business or football writer Dave Parr suggested that there was maybe a bit of a black hole left to pay of 60-70 million, but that may also coincide with the fact that Freegan said he was open to lending the club more money if needed.
Yeah,
he's already lent the club money anyway. What do you make of priority number 2?
Well, I think what I would say there is regarding the stadium is just needs to be built.
Yeah.
Doesn't it really? I think this is not secure funding, okay, it's a priority, but the stadium needs to be complete. It needs to be fitted out, in full, and it needs to be ready for the start of the next, before the start of the next season. So that's the second priority, isn't it, really?
Yeah, still on schedule, by the way.
Yeah.
So like November, December, isn't it, as far as...
And I think, to be fair, lost in all of this, and it's rather sad, isn't it, that the funding of the stadium has actually overshadowed the actual stadium building project itself, which those type of projects, enormously complicated, bits of construction, they get fraught with issues. And to be fair, touch wood so far, and we're way down the line in building it, it's been pretty smooth, hasn't it? There hasn't been any delays. I know they've put it back a year, but you suspect if they could have moved it forward a little bit. And I think that it's been a triumph, hasn't it, the way the stadium's gone up. And it reflects well on Colin Chong and the people involved in building it, and people within the club who are involved in it. And I think that that's been a major plus off the pitch for us. And I think that's been set aside when we've been talking about the club over the last few years. How it's failings is actually getting the stadium up and running. To there or thereabouts the original plan, I think is a great achievement. But we just need to, the priority within this list is getting that fitted out, And they've got to do a few test events, haven't they? And also as well, we may talk about this later, is the transfer of people from Goodison Park and to Bramley Moor, isn't it? That the logistics of that is really.
I like the ticketing side of things.
The ticketing side and where people sit, and they've done a lot of work already around the corporate side.
Yeah.
Selling of corporate tickets and facilities, and I think that's gone really well. And so we're already started that, and that's worked well so far. But the logistics of moving people across and everybody gets the seat that they want. So we've had like conversations with fans, haven't we, about friends who go to the game about where they want to sit and they want to be with people around them. At Bramley Moor, the same people they're with at Goodison, and that can logistically be very difficult. So that's the other. It's managing that move of people from Goodison to Bramley Moor and selling out the additional 12,000 seats, isn't it, as well? So that's just, I'd say that's the other priority. That's a big priority.
Just on that, my understanding is that priority comes at 23 years capped for a season ticket. How do you think they're going to do it then, in terms of like where you want to sit? Because obviously there might be some fans who disappointed.
Some people's views have gone, haven't they? That the views of Goodison Park that you won't be able to have at Bramley Moor because where the corporate facilities are and so on. I don't know. The easiest thing I suppose is the Gladys Street, the big terrace or whatever you would call it, the big stand of Bramley Moor, just to move on block those people. But people might want different seats, mightn't they? Might want to be.
But what are the club going to do? Do you think, like, send communication out, send email out?
I think some have already been sent, haven't they? I don't know. I don't know how you would do it. You'd like to think that people have got an option where to sit. Yeah. And you can do a lot of things with virtual reality now, can't you? And all that. So I don't know.
People who want to be sat next to family, friends, and stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely. So that is. Although that's lost in all of this, fans as individuals have to have their needs met, don't they? And that can be quite tricky, and there's a balance in that for the club. But I think you would hope it's dealing with fans on an individual basis. But that can be tricky, and obviously another 12,000, 13,000 seats gives us a few more options as well.
Excited though, nonetheless.
Oh yes, yeah. No,
there's not going to be a bad seat in the house, is there?
We don't move grounds every 10 years, do we?
No.
When was the last ground we moved? 1892. So 133 years later. So we don't do it.
No, not often.
Every decade, do we? So it's literally, what was it? Over a century since we moved from, where to Goodison. So yeah, it's a great thing for the club, isn't it? And we'll talk about that later on, but that's the other part, is that you really underplay the importance of getting that right, because if you get it wrong, that can any sort of the benefits that you get from new ground can be lost a little bit with fans if they don't think it's been managed properly. But I'm sure Everton are good at that sort of stuff. I'm sure they will do it.
Okay, the second priority on that list then is the completion of Bramley Moor and getting into Bramley Moor, which will is going to happen over the course of the next 9 to 10 months. Really looking forward to it. Can't wait. Number 3 on the list then, which me and you have spoke about fairly recently. I think we dedicated an entire podcast to this. Yes. We've had feedback on this as well from a number of fans.
Plenty.
But I also feel now that it's become even more of a priority now that the collapse of the Freakin' takeover happened last week, because let's face it, Sean Dyche and Kevin Thelwell are the only, consistent bodies at this club at this moment in time, at the football operation side of things.
Well, for many people, they are the club, aren't they?
Yeah.
They, with the interim board and an absent owner, for many people, both within Everton and outside of Everton, they are the club. They are the spokespeople for the club, and they, in a challenging year last year, I felt they did collectively a good job. You get the impression that what you've seen over the summer, they're getting to grips with it a lot more. I think that the problem you've got, though, it goes to things outside our control, is it the decision-making capacity at board level there now to sort out their futures? Are they empowered enough to do that? Who would make that decision? Mashiri wants to sell. Why would you allow him to make the decision? And I think that's a worrying thing, really, for us, in that one or two could go. You know, as you said before, Dyche within and on the pod is, in normal circumstances, Dyche kept us up against the odds in his first half season, got us to mid-table in real terms last season before any deductions, with the promise of moving on. In a stable environment, he'd be having a conversation with the club over the summer, wouldn't he? Or even before the summer, over a new contract.
I think it should have already happened in a normal environment.
It would have done, you know, for a new 3-year deal. And if you got one, people would probably say, yeah, he deserved it for what he's done. And Thelwell probably a little bit to a lesser degree, you know, is in the same boat. But that can't really happen at the moment. And, you know, we've had conversations over the last week, haven't we? Is when there's uncertainty over the manager's position, or people think that he's going at the end of the season, players naturally switch off a little bit, don't they? You know, and you saw that last year in a couple of clubs. I'm sure, you know, what people said about events across the park, that didn't help.
Yeah.
When the manager said they're going at the end of the season in January. So that uncertainty about the manager can impact the on-play and on the pitch performances. So this is, again, one of these where it's outside people's control. It is dependent on the ownership. That said, may not be.
I do feel, I agree that it's kind of outside to an extent, but I also, you know, feel it is inside as well. Yeah. I do. Don't get me wrong. I'm not even Sean Dyche's biggest fan, and I still think the jury's out on Kevin Thelwell.
Absolutely.
But you've just hit the nail on the head. There seems to be a bit more cohesion in the way things have gone on this summer. Now, we've been criticised for being too positive, I think, with regards to feedback over Sean Dyche and Kevin Thelwell. But
I don't think we've been too positive. I think we've given a balanced view.
No, I agree. I'm saying the feedback that we've had, but I just think that now that the takeover has collapsed, there's just an air of uncertainty again around the club. We need to make sure that everything goes right on the pitch this season. Yeah. And if that means that we offer Sean Dyche an extension, now we could end up losing the first 5 games of this season.
Yeah.
And I could be eating my words. So we'd be like, well, Sean Dyche could be facing the sack, but then that's a different question in itself, because is there anyone there to sack him? That is opening up an absolute can of worms.
Yeah, we'll park that one for now.
No, absolutely park that. But what I'm trying to suggest is, we've seen it in the past. Brighton's manager left De Zerbi. Apparently they knew that the players knew he was leaving a couple of months before. Their form dropped and dipped off. They didn't have a good a season as they've had in the past. The biggest case in point is probably Jurgen Klopp announcing his departure.
It happened years ago with Ferguson, didn't it, at Man United in 2001 too, where he said at Christmas he was going at the end of the season, and he ended up like losing the lead to Arsenal, became champions. So yeah, I think that's obviously more of an impact for us this season, uncertainty about the management and the director of football compared to last season, and that could have a capacity to have a really adverse impact on performances. So we'll just have to wait and see.
And what's Sean Dyche thinking in his own mind? His stock probably never been higher.
Well, exactly. And in normal circumstances, he'd be speaking with the board, wouldn't he, about a new deal. And I think Thelwell, director of football, is always a slightly different position, because not, you know, your achievements are not as visible, are they, as a manager. So we'll wait and see, but that could, as I say, that could have a negative impact.
Dare I say the top job in the country is going to be available, or is available?
I said early on this week, I'm not sure. And I tell you why I'm not sure, but I'd say no. Is Dyche doesn't strike me as a manager who, for long periods of the season, is doing nothing. I think the way he likes to work, he likes that being involved with the players all the time. You see that in Gaffer's Day, whatever. You know, I think you enjoy his day to day. He enjoys his day to day workings with the squad, and all that goes with that, and you know, and all the detail and having a bit more being hands on. I'm not sure he's the best if you've got like 3 or 4 months without a game that you do at international level. Plus, with all due respect from the playing side, I don't think he's got the gifts to be an England manager. But that's a different question, though, isn't it? Who the England manager is?
He might be able to make more time for his music career.
Well, possibly, but I don't think that's going to happen. But I think this is an issue that might become more and more significant as the season goes on.
Yeah, and I think it is going to stem. It's going to come down to how well Everton are doing on the pitch as well.
Yeah.
I think if it's so hard because even if you're finishing, say 15th to mid-table, you're probably still going to lose more games than you win. And you know that for me, although it secures our Premier League status, it's still a frustrating season.
Yeah, what do you think is an achievable position for us this year?
Kind of, do I have to give an answer now, or can we wait till all transfers and incomings and outgoings?
Well, as we stand at the moment, what do you think an achievable position?
Where do we finish?
11th or 12th, was it? Something like that in real terms.
I'd probably say similar.
Yeah.
And, you know, if we can bring in 2 or 3 more players, attacking players, you know, I don't think it could be out of the question that a top 10 finish is out of the question. With that. But again, I do think that the league is going to be a lot stronger this season than it was last season. Yeah,
possibly. But in the bottom half, as we saw last season, there's you know, we were in that group, were we? Moderate standards, isn't it, really? And if collectively, if it's still moderate next year, you like to think that we've kicked on in the coming season.
I just think that some teams have surprised me with how well they've done. And when I say how well they've done, I'm talking like the likes of maybe Fulham, the likes of Bournemouth.
Yeah.
They've been away from the relegation battles for about 2 or 3 years. Certainly, maybe not Bournemouth, because I think Bournemouth kicked on more last season. And again, I was a bit surprised at how well they've actually done. I think their manager has managed to implement a style of play, and they actually play some good football.
They're in a good example of retaining faith with your manager, aren't they? Yeah. Really, and they saw that, and Silva's done a good job at Fulham. And I think, but you're looking at our squad, and you know, you're thinking, well, we should be there or thereabouts with them, shouldn't we?
Yeah.
And I think a good season for us if we kick on, if we get into the 9th or 10th, I think that'd be really, really good achievement.
Yeah.
Said, I think when we were talking about this last week or the week before, is on previous pods we've done at the start of the season, since over the last 3 years, we always said, what do you want the season? Just to avoid getting relegated. Yeah. That's been the view. I think this season, I don't think we're anywhere near that.
Okay.
And you're looking at, I think the good thing for me is, and I think I said this on the pod the other week, is you see the players that they're bringing in and their age and their profiles, and they don't strike me as sorts of players that we're bringing in just to shore up the defence, shore up the defences, stay stable, remove any risk. They're there to kick us on, aren't they? For Dice to improve the style of football, to make it more offensive, bring a little bit of pace in the team. We're not there just to play it safe and be stable. Yep. You know, make sure, you know, like where our aim is, finish 17th. The players we brought in are there, I think, to get us into the top half of the table. And if they come in a good side, there's no reason why we can't do that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've kind of touched upon one of the points, later points, but we will come back on to. But someone said in the comments we should be aiming for like top 8.
Yeah, well, why not? But I don't think, like, in that context, 9th or 10th is a failure.
Yeah. Okay, so that is point number 3, priority number 3. That is make a decision on the futures of Sean Dyche and Kevin Thirlwell. Moving on, we've got priority number 4. Very, very interesting one, which I am now maybe starting to go back and forth on a little bit, but it is sort out the future of Dominic Calvert-Lewin. That is whether we offer. Well, I know we've offered him a new deal. Whether that is going to be. I don't think it's actually been rejected out of hand. But do we need to go back to the negotiating table, or do we sell him? I'll just say the reason I'm having second thoughts on this is because originally I was of the opinion that it doesn't matter. Not necessarily how much we get offered for him. I think if we get offered silly money for him, then we should accept it.
What do you think, silly money?
Well, I was very surprised, to be honest, that the figure that they were speaking about when it was kind of at the swap deal for Minter was like 30-40 million. I was very surprised at that.
Well, yeah.
No, okay. I know what you mean.
Yeah. Don't get in trouble with the Premier League here, do you? Yeah. So what do you think? So, setting aside that, what do you think would be a decent deal?
In an ideal world, he signs a new contract and that is the end of it. And then if we want to sell him further down the line, his valuation is propped up. But I was of the opinion that it doesn't matter now. Let's just let him stay for the season, because similarity from the previous year is what is needed. We need stability. Having seen or monitoring a number of comments regarding Dominic Calvert-Lewin online. I know this doesn't, necessarily reflect all Everton fans, but I think as the season goes on, and if he does stay with the club and he doesn't sign a new contract, the fans could potentially really get on his back, especially if he starts missing some chances. And I think that could have a detrimental impact on his form.
Yeah, and on the team as a whole.
Yeah.
I mean, when you say the sort out to the future of Calvert-Lewin, it's up to Calvert-Lewin to sort out to the future of Calvert-Lewin, isn't it, really? We can only do so much here. Yeah. We've offered him a contract. It's within his gift to sign that contract. Yeah. Or, and there's talk, isn't there, like the Newcastle deal breaking down over, what he wanted over wages. And so a lot of this is in his gift. He can sign a new deal, or he can go to another club and maybe take a cut in what he was expecting to receive. Calvert-Lewin is again, points this out on the podcast before, is he doesn't bring a lot to the negotiating table. You think of players when you go, and I can think of at least one Everton player, no, definitely, turns up for his new contract with a load of big folder with his stats in.
Yeah.
Right, okay, I'm like sort of third, best for assists, whatever, blah, 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 so therefore give me a new deal. Calvert-Lewin, if he was to do that, the people he was talking to, be it Everton or another club, will say, well, like over the last 3 seasons, you've scored, was it 15 goals in 75 games, including penalties, and you've also been missing injured for 50% of that time. So therefore, whatever you're asking here in that context is too much.
Yeah.
It's too much of a risk, for that word again, risk, for us to offer you. Yeah, he said, I don't know. I'm grasping this for 120 grand a week, so you want 120 grand a week for 3 years, and look at what you've done over the previous 3 years. It's not happening. You suspect that might have happened with Newcastle. So he's off. Where he's coming from is a low point, I think. So it's up to him. What does he want to do? Does he want to play football? First choice. I mean, it's been talk of Arsenal. He goes to Arsenal.
He's not going
to play, is he?
But there's not that many other suitors anyway.
Yeah, and that's the thing, isn't it? Not the wages he wants. And I think so. A lot of it's in what he wants, and I think reading between the lines, his demands when he's talked to other clubs have been too big. I wouldn't really allow him signing a new deal.
Well, there has been reports this past week that he is potentially open to signing a new deal. Effectively, should be open to it anyway. We've offered him a new deal. He's, we've shown him loyalty with regards to, his injury problems. He's come back into the fore this season. He's done well as a player in the side. He may not have scored the goals that we've wanted him to, but I completely agree. He doesn't, at this moment in time, whether he's having second thoughts or not, there's not much that he could say he could bring to the table. And if he goes to likes of an Arsenal, as an example, at United, I don't know, a Newcastle, I mean, would he even be playing every week for Newcastle?
No.
There's one thing guaranteed right now at this moment in time. If he stays with Everton, if he signs a new contract and stays with Everton, he will play every week as long as he's fit.
Yeah, and the important bit is the last sentence there, the last bit of that sentence, as long as he's fit. I mean, because us offering a deal to him is fraught with risk itself, isn't it, when you see his injury record? And if it's a 3-year deal, you're then getting into his late 20s, and then that's when you start picking up more knocks and become more difficult to shake off. You're not in the early 20s anymore. So us offering a Calvert-Lewin a new deal from the playing side is a risk. What it does, it protects us if he does well for us over 12 months. There might be somebody comes into him for him, and we can transfer him for a big fee. But this is completely different to when he was sort of potentially on the market in 2021, where he scored 20 goals previous season, 15 the season before, something like that. He's in a different position now. I wouldn't rule out the way it's going when he signs a new deal. I don't think we can let him go at the end of next season
for the free.
I think we need to rule that out.
I mean, again, repeat myself here, but I am now starting to show concern that if he doesn't sign a deal, that's when the season starts and he starts missing chances or he starts having poor performances, that fans are just going to get on his back, because he's another player, along with former Everton player Amadou Onana, who divides opinion quite a bit. Yeah,
I don't think he's as good as what people make out. He would be described as one-way striker. Dominic Calvert-Lewin or something like that, which may be unfair. Yeah, no, I mean, his benefit for Everton is what he brings to the playing style of Dyche, doesn't it? Really, he suits the playing style of Dyche, and that's it. That's being a team player, I think, rather than what he brings individually.
Okay, I'll do some quick fire questions at the end, but just while we're talking about Calvert-Lewin, Emma says, time for us to move on from Dominic Calvert-Lewin, or he's already burnt his bridges.
Interesting. Yeah, well, that
what
goes
I mean.
back to your point, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Already. And in my experience, that's what happens when a player refuses to sign a new deal, or is delaying it, and they sort of lay off a little bit. The crowd gets on the back, and it's fully justified, that, isn't it? Really.
Okay, so that is priority number 4, sort out the future of Dominic Calvert-Lewin. Priority number 5, a very, very important one, Gav. Secure Jarrad Branthwaite's future with a new and improved long-term contract.
Yeah. Again, but some of this goes back to who makes the decision, and he's on what you believe is his contract was signed when he was just on the way up. So what he's getting now probably doesn't reflect the fact that he's actually an established Premier League performer, one of the most promising defenders in the Premier League, England international, being courted by at least one club. His salary doesn't reflect that, does it? And that you would think that would be needed as a priority, wouldn't it? Really.
I mean, I'll read this out. So reports this week have said Branthwaite is set to be offered a new contract, but the defender is unlikely to sign unless certain demands are met. I think that was a report from the Mail, and the reported figure for his wages is 160,000 a week. Whether you believe that or not, I don't know. That is the reports that have circulated this week. But I don't think Everton can have it both ways, can they? They can't be like, he's worth 70, 80 million and rejecting bids out of hands from Manchester United, but then keeping him on like a lower term contract.
I get that, but absolutely, but if I'm not sure 160 grand a week, by the way.
You wouldn't? Would you go that far?
No. By 22, he's had one very, very good season in the Premier League.
They're just reports.
And they're always. They can always be a little bit extravagant, can't they? Some of those claims, because the problem with that is somebody like that signs a new deal, and guess what? Next minute you got an agent and a player knocking on the manager's door and saying,
I want that.
See what I did last season. So you have to be very careful about wage structures, especially in our position. I'm not. I think he needs a rise, but nowhere near that for somebody who's still. I still believe he's relatively unproven at Premier League. I think he's got to have 2 or 3 good seasons back to back. People compare him to Stones, but when Stones went to Manchester City, he'd had 2.5 seasons at Everton as an established defender, and was in the England setup. Playing for England, Branthwaite's nowhere near that. So when you're talking about them two being similar, yeah, they are, but only if Branthwaite stays at Everton for another couple of years. Couldn't you compare him to Stones?
Yeah, I think it is a fine balance. I mean, I'm not suggesting the club or anyone in the club have said this publicly, but our fans, you see it all the time. He's a generational talent. He's going to go on to do this. He's going to be worth 100 million.
Yeah.
Etc. But if he is that type of player, you obviously do have to find that balance of where he fits in within that wage structure.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, regardless of whether United's current position, they are still one of the top teams in English football. It is still a bit of a pull to go to United. Maybe not so much as if Sir Alex Ferguson was there. I just think, obviously, a new contract, improved terms, long-term contract. One question though, Branthwaite and his agent might want this in there, but a clause. How would that work? Would we be looking at 80, 90 to 100 million if someone was to activate that fee clause?
You would think there will be some.
Chris Beasley thinks he is. That's a quote.
I'm not sure about that. What, once in a generation? I'm not so sure about that. I think he's very good. In 12 months' time, if he kicks on again, possibly. But where he stands at the moment, I'm not so sure. But he's had a great season. But we want him to have another great season. We also want him to improve as well, because that's what he needs to do.
Tazul Islam says 75 to 90k is reasonable.
I think that's okay. Yeah.
Is that okay? Yeah. Glenn Rainton says no need to offer him a bigger contract. He's only just signed one. he's going to go next season, so why spend more money on wages? I think you obviously don't necessarily agree with that. I think it would be better now for the club to offer him a new long-term deal. Whether I say long-term deal, he's still on a long-term deal now, but I think on the back of his season, he definitely needs improved terms.
Yeah, well, absolutely, and it might help him stay here. The other benefit for Branthwaite is if he signs a new improved deal, if he did move, that gives him more bargaining power with the club is buying him. I mean, it's one thing. Say, I don't know what he's on. Say he's on 30 grand a week now. If he went to another club, they'd say, "Well, I'll tell you what, we'll give you 90." But if you're on 90 grand a week at Everton and you want to go to another club, say, "Well, give me 130 or something like that." Yeah. So, I think it improves his bargaining position. Should he move on? Within all this, you're talking about priorities. Keep him for this season.
Absolutely.
That's the priority, isn't it, really? And that's contracts and all that part of that. So that it's not only offering him a new contract, it's keeping him for the entire campaign. And what happens at the end of the season, we'll see what happens then.
Yeah, I mean, again, it must be stated that the £160,000 a week figure came from the Mail. So, we will see where that goes.
But lots of papers say that. So that's been going on for donkey's years.
Yeah, it's a guesstimation, isn't it?
Yeah.
If I can use two words combined together. Okay, so that is number 5. Priority number 5, Jarrad Branthwaite's future and improved long-term contract. Number 6, I'm going to kind of just let you do this one because take over
that's
talk.
That's a big long word, isn't it?
What, consolidate?
Yeah.
Number 6 is consolidate and restructure Everton's debt.
That's right, isn't it? We need to...
No secret that we've got massive interest payments on some of those loans.
Wow, yeah. I mean, I think the 777 where the interest rate is being parked, in the Leadenhall papers, the legal stuff, it says a let slip there that they lend money to Everton at 12.5%. So that means over a year, they've got 200 million, that's what, 25 million quid in interest for 1 year. We've got interest on the Freakin and the rights of media funding, so that's a fair whack. So we'll throw all into that pot, maybe 60 million a year. But what we need to do, and I don't want to bore everybody here, is, and the stage being built and completed is benefits, is the normal, is to wrap all those debts into one long-term debt at a lower interest rate. It's like, say, Spurs did, and that's what we need to do. It's getting the club on a more stable financial footing with regards to its debts, and that's all part of the new owner. A lot of these are interlinked, aren't they? Between the new owner, getting the stadium built, having a board to make the key decisions. That's what we need to do, because paying £50 million a year interest rates when we're only getting interest when we're only getting 180, 200 million pounds worth of income, it's not sustainable. That all needs to be restructured, doesn't it, really? And that's a priority. But that may not happen until the stadium is finally finished and there's a new owner stroke board in place.
I've got nothing else to say. I think you've summed it up perfectly there, to be honest, Gav.
Yeah, that's a priority.
So number 6 priority is consolidate and restructure Everton's debt, and like I say, that is going to come with a new owner, isn't it? It's all linked together.
You never thought you'd be talking about this on a pod, would you? Really? No. Years ago.
It's burnt me head out, to be honest. I mean, all you want to do is talk about football, but even the football over the past couple of years has been...
Football may not have existed. You could have just had a series of pods over the last few years just talking about the off-the-pitch stuff, and that's really what's happened, hasn't it?
Yeah. Okay, well, let's talk about football. Transfers. So number 7 on the list of priorities is finalise incomings and outgoings for this summer.
Yeah.
We've already brought in 4. Tim Iraboomen.
Yeah, Jesper, you can say his name, yeah.
Just about. Jesper Lindström, confirmed today.
Good.
Jack Harrison, obviously Everton player last season on loan, another loan, as confirmed. And, oh my God, who's the 4th? I've completely forgot who the 4th one is.
Ilman
Ndai, sorry, yeah.
Yeah. And also within that, we've renewed contracts or extended contracts of like the likes of Garner, Gay, Ashley, Young and Coleman. So I think, all package that up, I think that's progress. Yeah. Encouraged by the players that they've targeted over the summer are young players. Ndai's 24, is he?
Yeah.
Iraboomen is 21.
Yeah, 21.
So players who are the best years ahead of them.
Yeah.
I know loans and stuff is slightly different, but going back to what I was saying before, you can see Dyson Talbot a different way of thinking compared to previously, though. Anana was 21, and Garner was 21 when we bought them, weren't they? So yeah, I'm encouraged by what we've done so far. I think there's gaps still to be filled there, isn't it? Really, I think
Priorities then for
you said the winger, didn't you, this morning before we came?
I got a winger down and potentially another centre back, but I think that would probably mean moving Michael Keane or Mason Holgate on a permanent transfer.
Well, Holgate's wages are going to be a
problem.
Impediment to that, aren't they? I think centre halves are an issue, especially Tarkowski. We don't know his position at the moment. We've lost Godfrey, who was our third choice centre half, wasn't he, last season?
But obviously played right back
and has played right back, so he was really useful to us last season. Ended the season really well. So I agree, but you can argue most places in the pitch. I mean, we've just been sort of filling in at right back one game at a time, haven't we, over the last couple of years? Left back Mikalenko, another one. We have.
I think that's more of a concern now than the right back position.
Yeah. I know Ashley Young was brought in as a possible, just as his understudy, and ended up playing on the other side of the pitch. So wherever you look, there's gaps, isn't there? And Arna's gone, hasn't he? Really, do you replace him? What happens if Calvert-Lewin goes? So there's gaps to fill, but there's only so much money we've got, and getting the right players in can be a challenge. So yeah, that's what we need to do. But I'm encouraged what I've seen so far in terms of the players that we've renewed and I hate that word profile, when you talk about players. The profile of the players we brought in, either permanently on or on loan. I'm encouraged with that as well.
Well, I just feel like it's less of a scattergun approach and a more concerted effort, to buy the players with the right profile.
Yeah, well, exactly. Why do you think that is? Well, I think Mashiri is not intervening, is he? Obviously there's people who've been on the board previously who are not there now. So you get the impression that over the since Mashiri came in 2016, there's been a lot of interference, not just from Mashiri, in the way players are bought and who we've been looking at and the decisions that have been made on the playing side, outside of the the manager and the director of football's control.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the reasons why Brands went, wasn't it, really? I think if the rumours are true about the interference, I think we look far more effective now within the purchase and the players, because you suspect the outside interference isn't there or not as prominent as what it was 4 years ago. Like phoning Iwobi up when he was on holiday, was in Dubai, was he, or something like that? Was it Mashiri phoning him up or something?
I agree to an extent. I think the jury's still out a little bit on Kevin Thurber.
I think, I'm not saying we're doing fantastically well, but I'm encouraged. But they still need to prove that actually those plans that they've gone off the pitch, bring them to fruition onto the pitch, and that's what we said. The capacity is there to do that, isn't it?
And I think as well, from all of our targets, we've only missed out on one,
which is the lad from Hull,
Jaden Philogene.
Yeah.
So I think that bodes well for the players that we're targeting and their willingness to want to come to Everton as well.
Yeah, and that's a good sign, isn't it? And as you say, there's no scattergun approach. There's no possible buying the players in the late 20s and putting them on 120 grand a week. I
think there will be there'll be quite a bit of movement though in the final week.
Yeah, I think there'll be players there. I mean, we've got Holgate still with us. Dare I say the lesser spotted Neil Mopay still around. Yeah. I think they'll be looking for loan deals out of the club. Well, between now and the start of the season.
Let's have a little look at then. Wilfred Nonto, obviously bit of a transfer saga. I think the club are really interested in him. It's whether
I've been for a couple of years.
A fee can be agreed. With Leeds. I mean, Leeds don't seem like they're in a need to sell players.
Yeah.
Which maybe we all thought, considering that he didn't come up to the Premier League, that it would be nailed on that we get Nonto because of that reason.
Yeah. So
Calvin Phillips.
I'm not sure about Calvin Phillips. I think with Calvin Phillips is it's about hunger, isn't it, really? And he signed what was 6-year deal, was it, with Manchester City? A long term deal on big money. And I wonder when he's not going to be playing in the, it might not be fair choice. It's a great deal financially for him. But I wonder is what's your hunger like? The player about wanting to play week in, week out, or are you just quite happy taking the money? And when you do that, on the pitch performances, and your own motivation can suffer, can't they? And that's the concern I've got with Calvin Phillips, is what is his motivation at the moment? And he saw a little bit at West Ham last year, didn't he?
Well, have you read the quotes from Kevin Nolan with regards to Calvin Phillips?
No.
So I'm going to be able to read them out because I haven't got them in front of me. But in brief, in summarisation, he basically said that when he came to West Ham, he was nowhere near ready, really. But he just thought, we'll throw him in and he might just take to it.
Yeah.
And obviously that wasn't the case. And he's given high praise to say that he thinks if he did go to Everton, that it would work out.
Oh, it could work out, but as I say, it's all about hunger and what the impression you get off players. And I think if you get to his age and sign a massive long-term deal on big money and you're not in the team, are you just quite happy to take the money? And has some of your motivation gone? And that's difficult to get back, isn't it, really? And then that's the problem. If he went on loan, what's he got to prove? Well, nothing really. He's not a young player trying to make his way in the game. He's an experienced player on a long-term deal at Manchester City on, as I say, on big money. And is that the type of loan profile that you want? I don't think so.
No. I think he could fit in well, to be honest.
From the playing side,
well.
His gifts and what he brings to the team, undoubtedly. But as I say before, as a profile of a loan sign, not for me.
Okay, well, number 7 then, finalise incomings and outgoings.
I tell you what, the sign, get up on loan and go, I think it's a really good sign and that,
Well, I hope that happens, Gav.
Yeah.
I hope that does happen.
I'll miss the pod that week.
Conveniently.
Yeah.
Okay, number 8 then. We've obviously touched upon this earlier on, talking about what we expect from Everton this season and where we would like to finish. But number 8 is maybe the most important one of all, in line with finding a new owner.
Yeah.
But that is securing our Premier League status for next season and the first season of Bramley Moor. If you're only just joining us now, you can go back to listen to us saying that we do think Everton are going to have a positive season and we don't necessarily need to worry about the prospect of relegation. And I think we even suggested that top half finish, depending on...
That's what you can do in midsummer, isn't it? Use them words advisedly. When you got shorts on, isn't it? You can say it's going to be a great season. But yeah, I think what we don't want, isn't it? Well, you don't want anyway to have a relegation fight, but not in the last season at Goodison. We don't want that some horrific scenario where we're playing the last game at Goodison and we've got to win to sort of retain our Premier League status. We want a nice smooth season where we're nowhere near the drop zone and it's not a risk to us. And if that happens from early on, that's what we want. Going back to, I know I don't want to talk about that, but we spoke about the other week, is 30 points to go down appears to be the new 40 points, doesn't it, really? Okay. And you suspect when you see the teams at the bottom and the teams that come up, say 32, 33 keeps you up. Well, we got 48 last year. Are you seeing a team that's going to lose 50? What we've done in the summer, that team's going to lose 15 points this season.
And you'd only say the teams at this moment is being improved.
Yeah. I mean, as long as we keep I think there's a couple of additional ones to talk about. As long as we keep the PSR wolf from the door and points deductions and that sort of nightmare, then I can't, on face value, I can't see us losing 15 points this season.
No.
If anything, you'd be hoping for a few more, wouldn't you?
Is there, and I've thought about this a little bit, is there a danger that this season could become a little bit too emotional for each home game because it's the final ever season at Goodison Park?
Possibly. Whether the players impacted by that, I think players are impacted more when they move stadiums for the first season. I think that's for a future pod, isn't it? I think there's lots of case histories there that are moving grounds can affect the playing staff. I don't think so. I think the other thing as well within this, just as a supporter, is leaving Goodison obviously last season is enormously special, but you don't want to be tired of that narrative, do you, by the end of the
Well, that's-
end of the campaign? Where I'm fed up of hearing the Let's Goodison's last season.
Okay,
you
well,
know, where you just become worn out by
Yeah.
it, do you really?
That's the reason why I bring it up, because if I
Yeah.
can use our red neighbours across the park, I think there was a suggestion that once Klopp had announced his departure at the end of the season, for them, for Liverpool fans, every game just be like, we've got to win it for Klopp, we've
Yeah.
got to do this for Klopp, and it just became too much. Now I know this is slightly different. It is. There's no two ways about it, but
It's intangible, isn't it? It's not a person as a Goodison.
Yeah.
Well, it's a grand old lady. I
but
suppose.
everyone's looking
Yeah,
forward
I
to
get
the
that.
final first game at Goodison Park, and it's like if you get beat,
Yeah.
it's like, oh, that sets us off on a
Is
terrible
this the
form.
last time we play Brentford at Goodison
Well,
Park?
exactly,
Or
it's
that
gonna be
type
the
of
last
stuff?
of
Yeah,
everything.
yeah, I get that. There'd be some significant games within that. Obviously, the derby, Aston Villa, possibly, like teams that we played in the first league season in 1888. There'll be times where that's justified, but yeah, you don't want to be exhausted by the end of the season, as a supporter.
We're looking at it from a fan's point of view. I'm hoping that Sean Dyche and the players will not see it like this
I
whatsoever.
don't think people look at it in that way, do they? I think former players obviously do, but I'm not sure whether the current staff. If you were moving office, would you be bothered? Really?
Slightly different.
I know
Gav.
it's slightly different. But it isn't. It's your place of work, isn't it? That's ultimately what it is, and I think it's more impact on the crowd and the fans that is a little bit more interesting to discuss.
Yeah. Well, okay, I did a pod on Wednesday with Tony Scott, and he said that he believes there's a bit of a suggestion that there'll be more pressure on Sean Dyche and the players to bang out performances. So is that?
I think
another
that's
concern?
fair. Yeah, I think that's
Certainly
fair.
at home.
Yeah, expectations. Yeah, I think a series of home defeats in Goodison's last season. We started off last year. Did we lose our first three?
We didn't win
Yeah,
till
Bournemouth was it?
wasn't
Yeah,
it? Yeah.
I didn't go that game there. So
I didn't.
there's one for you. Yeah, yeah. I think if you start with 3 defeats, I totally get that. That the pressure is slightly different than what it would be if it was 3 defeats last season. Goodison's, you can imagine headline. Everton's terrible start to their last season at Goodison Park. That adds a little bit of pressure, doesn't it, really? On the other hand, it can work the other way, can't it?
Yeah.
Maybe win our first 3. It's a complete opposite fact. But yeah, I think looking at it from that perspective, situating our performances and results in the last season at Goodison Park may work against us at some point if they're bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see where you're coming from on that, and where Tony's coming from on that.
Do you think currently it's the 18th of May, isn't it? Which is a Sunday.
Yeah.
So it's the same weekend as the FA Cup, so that's why no games. This is the final game, of the season against
Yeah.
Southampton. Do you think it'll get moved?
If they're in the FA Cup final.
No, well, maybe, but do you think Sky could take it up as like a Friday night game, a Monday night? I mean, Goodison Park's final game,
Well,
it would
you
be poetic that it's under the
I
lights.
think it's been done for a reason, hasn't it? Like Tottenham and West Ham don't have your final home game on the last day of the season because you sort of tend to get overshadowed. West Ham, it worked really well, didn't it? Because they had the game against Man United rescheduled, so they were the last game at Upton Park midweek against Man United. Yeah, it could. I think it'll definitely be covered, won't it? I'd rather have it on Sky than any other channel, by the way.
Yeah.
For their reach, and I think that's been done for a reason. It'll be one of the. You would like to think that's one of the priority games that broadcasters would want. Really, and this is when you talk about other priorities, I suppose, and off the pitches, giving Goodison Park a send off, and also as well, what's been forgotten in all this is, Micheri had obviously the grandiose plans for the Goodison regeneration, the legacy project. That's all. I don't know where we are on that at the moment, but you are right, I suppose, thinking about it, that adds an extra angle to performances and results, doesn't it? The fact that it's the last season. And that could work against us or could work for us.
Okay, well, let's finish off with some quick fire questions / comments. Stephen says, Dyche ain't getting a bigger job or more money elsewhere. Do we agree with that?
Yeah, we said that, didn't we?
Yeah.
This is about his highest level he can get, really.
He's definitely not getting any, the so-called bigger clubs, is he?
No, not at this stage. I don't. He's got a certain reputation within the game. I don't. Can I just like a little bit of an aside?
Go on.
If I was Dyche, I would have got rid of the whole Gaffer's Day thing.
Would you?
Yeah. I think it just reinforces stereotypes around him, which I think he can do without.
Did he bring that up himself this year, or is that something that the media have picked
Well,
up
it's
on?
sort of a big thing, isn't it? Really, and I think it's been spoken about in the past.
I know Joe made
park that.
Joe made a big deal out of it in some of his pieces.
Yeah, I think I'm not saying it's wrong to do it.
I
But
understand what you're saying.
I think it just reinforces if it dies to move on, and we're saying about is this his level. It doesn't necessarily have to be, does it? To move on, I think he's got to change the image that he projects, and part of that image that he projects at the moment is this whole Gaffer's Day, working the players hard, it's all hard work and making them feel, not very well and all this. I just think that reinforces stereotypes around how people view him.
Yeah.
That's all about hard work and graft and being on top of the players. But actually, modern management is a lot more than that. And I would just have it, but don't talk about it. Don't even call it Gaffer's Day. There won't be a Gaffer's Day this year. We'll still work the players hard. You can do both.
Yeah. Joe Rooney says, wouldn't give Dyche more than a 2-year deal, possibly only extend 1 year for now if you want a bit more stability. Think he's lucky to be in the job after the 3 months without a win.
I don't know. Have you got to look? Yeah, I get that. And there was people calling for his head that when we gone 40 games without whatever. Totally get that. But look at and that's understandable. You probably say we had these conversations on the pod. Yeah, I totally get that. But he's still got us to mid-table. And I do think in the current circumstances, again, we said this a couple of weeks ago, didn't we? That a short-term extension may be the answer.
Who makes the decision? That was obviously the big question.
That's a moot point. Thelwell, Mashiri, somebody else.
Definitely not Mashiri at the moment. Kraft Matthew says, very encouraged by the incoming so far. Still feel we're lacking at right back, cover at left back, cover at centre back, and a striker. God, it's like the whole team, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, yeah, we're just missing cover for the entire starting 11, which is probably easy way of saying it. Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment. That's what we've just spoken about, haven't we?
Emma says, if Dominic Calvert-Lewin doesn't sign, throw him in the reserves. He's very harsh, Emma, on Calvert-Lewin.
I don't think that's an option. Sadly, he's far more important to us, isn't he, than just not being able to get rid of him. Really, in terms of putting him on the bench. Within all this, I think there's another little angle to this forwards is what we're going to do with Chimiti. I think is he shown enough to we was talk about going on loan. He's
shown something. Whether he's shown enough, I don't know.
Yeah, to say, well, actually, we think he's a viable option to Calvert-Lewin, or he should be. I think he's probably moved ahead of Beto in the pecking order. I think he probably has.
I mean,
Beto's another player who's had his future under scrutiny as well, hasn't he?
Yeah.
About comings and goings.
Sticking with Dominic Calvert-Lewin, Jason Hindle says, what if Dominic Calvert-Lewin got another injury this season? He would have missed more games than he had played. It's time to sell.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point, and that's the risk about giving him a new contract, isn't it? Yeah, I think that's a fair point, and it's time to sell because, as I always say, the best time to sell a player is 12 months before it's too late, and we're in that position with Calvert-Lewin, aren't we?
Someone says Everton need Jeff Bezos to buy the club and give $100 billion cash injection.
Well, I think the profit and sustainability rules neutralise that. Have you seen, compared to the tech giants, how much the Saudi investment fund is worth? By the way,
yeah.
And look what their power at Newcastle is very limited, isn't it? Even though they're the richest entity on the planet.
Yeah, it is an interesting one from Glenn Rainton. Are we seeing a change in style, or will it be the same as last season, but much more effective as a counter-attacking team? Obviously, this is probably
I think there's players there that can, if, say, another speedy winger comes in, I think there's adding a few strings to the bow in terms of moving away from being one-dimensional, workman-like, and crustacean in the way we play to being a bit more dynamic.
Yeah, I mean, we
want to pace, don't we? We said this before.
A lot of people saying, look, it's suggesting that we move into more of a counter-attacking team. We did score a lot of our goals from set pieces, didn't we, last season?
Yeah.
I don't think we scored many from the counter-attack. So
well, I don't think we said, didn't we, the other week? Even teams at our level, even they've got pace, haven't they, on the break? Not just one player, but a couple of players. But Everton just haven't got any pace. And bringing in 2 or 3 players who can give us that, will give us another another dimension, won't they? Really, and I think that's a challenge for Dyche, isn't it?
Well, okay, so challenge for Dyche. Someone says, do you think Dyche can adapt his playing style to suit our new players?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
And managers, see, the problem with managers is every manager in the history of the game has just had their own playing style. Alex Ferguson was still probably playing the same way when he finished at Man United when he started at Aberdeen.
Yeah.
You know, attacking football on the front foot. Managers just do have a playing style. Like, we all got our own ways of working. They don't tend to change or can't change. And Dyche has got his playing style. You can tinker around with it a little bit, and that's what Dyche has got to do. You know, we don't want to sort of play in, I don't know, like playing like Klopp at Dortmund, where you're pressing and it's breaking at pace and stuff. That's not his style, but you can bring a little bit extra.
Okay, well, I think we will leave it there for Friday's show. Any final remarks?
My head hurts. Yeah, I know what you mean.
Are you going to bed straight after this?
No, I'm going to go for a long walk.
You're going for a long walk,
Yeah.
bit of fresh air, bit of sun.
I don't realise a couple of beers along the way.
Oh, well, the best hangover cure is to just get back on it.
That is
a
for me.
fact.
I think a lot of the times with me, I just I don't want to see anything.
Don't get me wrong,
Alcohol.
it does catch up on you, but that second day, if you have another pint,
Yeah.
it does work.
Well, I'm playing 90 minutes football tomorrow morning, so I've got to be careful.
Okay. Just so everyone knows that obviously we do play Salford tomorrow, second pre-season friendly of the season, so Joe Thomas and Conor O'Neill are going to be in attendance, and they'll be bringing you all the latest coverage from that friendly on the Liverpool Echo website and the Royal Blue YouTube channel. Please remember to give us a like and give us a subscribe if you haven't already, and leave us a 5-star review on Apple and Spotify. We had a really great review, by the way, on Apple, and I forgot to bring it into the podcast on the agenda, but next time I'll bring it in.
And it's worth saying thanks everybody for all the comments, even comments which are critical are really appreciated, because as you like the dialogue. You know, not everybody should share the views that are on here. If you disagree, that's fantastic as well.
Yeah, we love a good debate.
Yeah.
I always say I don't like to get involved in too much of a back and forth debate on Twitter, but sometimes when it's good natured, you can't help yourself, can you? And it is
and it gives you food for thought. And you know, not everything you say on air is right. A large part of it probably isn't, but it's great, and that's what podcasts are great. And I know the people who watch live and give questions. That's really appreciated, because it gives us something to talk about and another angle to the discussion.
Absolutely. Well, we are 4 minutes or 5 minutes over the hour, so hopefully I haven't leave you late to wherever you're off to, Gav. But I've been Ian Croll, joined by Gav Buckland, and this has been the Royal Blue Podcast.